this is how I almost messed up my 4-year relationship. And there's a lot to it. So I'm going to give you some backstory, and a lot of this has been solved. So I'm just going to let you know about the tiny little things that have been going on. And trust me, there's a lesson in this. Anyways, so I've been with my now fiance for about 4 years, coming up on 5 as of recently, into like July, whatnot. And the relationship has been going great. Nothing like toxic or anything else like that. Been going through these 4 years pretty well. And I proposed last year in May. And here's the context of a lot of different things. So the way the crux of the issue kind of started, of how our relationship almost really ended, was because actually the first Friday of the new year, this is the same week that we already had discussed. Like, we already went to see wedding venues, starting the wedding planning and everything like that. And it was kind of up and running already. And typically when wedding planning starts, working on the relationship kind of comes to a halt. And I then come to a point of realization on that Friday that I honestly wasn't happy with how the relationship was at that moment. And there were a lot of things that I realized, like, I was feeling that I wasn't okay with. And in all honesty, I couldn't, with a clear conscience, go through with planning the wedding and everything else like that if I continue to feel like this and so at peace, to the point where you get married. I didn't say anything, right? Let's say if I planned it out forward, and then once the marriage starts, I lay all this out there, and then she finds out I've been thinking about this months in advance, but has not brought it up to actually fix it. That's a really big breach of trust, and that's not how I want to start any kind of marriage. And so it came to the point where we technically already had a date and postponed it. It's a big thing. And could I have done it a lot better? Heck yes. And this is the reason why I say how I recently messed it up, is because, in all honesty, like, I wasn't open with what I was feeling. I really wasn't. Certain standards that I had for myself and had even for our relationship, I just kind of held it in and held it back. And I was just like, no, it's just mostly me. Kind of brought it up, kind of was thrown a little bit to the wayside, disregarded a little bit, saying that, like, oh, I'm not thinking of much and whatnot. And then I came along and thought about it. But those feelings still persisted, but I continually pushed them down. And it was more of a sense where I was changing for her rather than her even changing at all. And a lot of times I went back on my own word. Because, for instance, and again, this has a good editing, so no knock on my fiance at all. There'd be times where, honestly, when it came to proposing, it's kind of drawn on me a little bit. But I got to that point where I was like, hey, look, I don't want to talk about wedding planning and everything like that, because there are certain things I want to change, with both of us. And something as simple as just like her being able to stick to the things that she says that she's going to do. Because, like, I want to be that type of person who can be confident in themselves and actually disciplined in any kind of area like that. So I want the person who I plan to live the rest of my life with to kind of have those same qualities. And that's not something that no one can really born with, or whatever the case like that. Like, we can all become that kind of person. And there's just like something as simple as, like, we say that we're going to go to the gym, so we're going to go to the gym. And sure, excuses can come, but are we going to stick to the things that we actually said that we were going to do? And that didn't happen. But we still went with a wedding planning. And I didn't really prioritize at all what was kind of important to me, because I kind of just lay down on the bedside and just, like, sacrifices what was important to me for what was important to her. And that was just a lot of bitterness and resentment that I didn't really understand, and I couldn't see it for a while. And a family member just kind of like I was asking for their perspective and they helped point it out. And instead of getting defensive like I've done before, because they would try and bring it out and point it out, and I'd be very defensive. I'll be like, why would you think that? Da, 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 and like all that jazz. And now it's just like, whoa, like I let it come to this point for like, let's say 2 years. And right as we're planning a freaking wedding, which is annoying. Still kind of like I'm annoyed with myself about that. However, and that kind of just led up to a conversation. I had a conversation with her, and it was just more of the sense of just like, hey, listen, I love you wholeheartedly. But in all honesty, I can't continue going like this if things stay the same. Because in all honesty, I've said this a lot of times before, and some people may not understand, but I'll do my best to explain it. I want to marry my future wife not just because I love her. Caveat. Love is an important thing about it. Obviously, that's part of the one big emotions that you need to have, right? And there's ways to kind of cultivate it and everything else like that. But also at the same time, I want to be able to make that very big lifelong decision, not just based on a feeling. I want to make it, you can think of it in a logical way, where in all actuality, I can say, yes, we're really compatible. Yes, we have the same values. Yes, we listen to each other. We can communicate. We can already start to build our lives into something that actually can partner well with the other person, rather than just prioritizing what I want over what she wants, or what her wants over my wants and whatnot. And like actually kind of helping us build each other up rather than just only one person. And I wanted to get to that point, still do, to just be able to say like, no, I'm marrying you not just because I love you, not just because you're hot, not just because I find you beautiful and you're awesome and da 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 da, all the lovey-dovey feelings, but more of just a case of like, I want to actually say I know from the bottom of my heart that in my mind, I can definitely say with full clarity and a clear conscience that I'm like, no, you are the person that I know is best suited for me. Because we've worked it out. Because we have so much, not just in common, but also we work well together and we can understand each other. And that's the main thing. And that's what really just told me. I was just like, listen. And we've had similar conversations like this before, not to the point of ending the relationship, but more of like me bringing up my concerns and like that, then nothing really happening, nothing really changing. That's why I said like I went back on my word a lot. And so I kind of just had to put not an ultimatum, but just really a decision. More of like, this is your choice. So right now, I want to postpone it until things change. And I see them for a longer time. Because we can change for 1 month, right? And then not continue with it at all. And I was like, no, like I want to change to be a better husband. And I also need to see certain things that I would want. And this is not just me prioritizing what I want, but it's more of the sense of like, I haven't even prioritized myself at all for the most of this relationship. And now give and take. She is not a toxic person. Just letting you know. It's not really that. And this is also just for future me, for like watching this video, because like I'm going to be like, wow, that's crazy. I can't, like, it's crazy that we went through this stuff, because it was very, very tough. Very, very sad. And I was like questioning whether or not this relationship would actually work and kind of be still here at the end of the day. And once that conversation happened, the day after was just sad. I knew we had to take some space, just like a day, really, but it was so painful. And a lot of crying that day, in all honesty. Then that Sunday, we got to talk about it all with each other. The pain going on both sides, right? Because she's hurt that I haven't told her all of this too. And she's hurt that she finds that I'm hurt. and I'm hurt because of what has been happening, right? And so trust is both broken on both sides. So we both need to work on this. And but then it's just like she laid out a plan, and she's like, I'm going to commit to doing this because, in all honesty, I don't want to lose you. And there was a part of me, I'll be real with you, like honest and transparency. That's what I want to do, like with all these different videos, is that there was a part of me where it just wanted to give up, where it was just like, no, like in all honesty, I can't see myself marrying this person right now. So I'm just going to like break it off and leave it. Part of me didn't want to run away and not deal with this and whatnot. Then the other part of me, the sane part, was more saying like, that's not fair to just put this all on her and not even give her a chance to change in the fact of being actually serious about this, putting a measurement in there of how serious I am, rather than just like, oh, I have a conversation. Oh, that felt great to have a conversation with you. And then later on, nothing changes. It's like, no, like this is something that's important to me. And if this is not met, then listen, if you don't want to change at all, go ahead. You don't have to. But the thing is, like, I also have standards for myself. And the same way she should have standards for herself too. That like, if I'm not willing to either have a discussion or find a way to kind of like make sure that things that are important to her are actually met, she shouldn't have to be with me. In the same way, I shouldn't have to be with her. And neither should you be with anybody who sees your needs or your boundaries as things that are not important. Because like, oh, that's just nothing. Like, bro, come on. Like, if this person really is important to you, then things that are important to them would become important to you. And it was more to the case of just like, I don't know where this relationship's going to go. And she listed out the plan of like, what are the things she's going to change, the habits she's going to implement. And that it was very hard for me to say as a guy who loves this woman and wants her to be the absolute best version of herself, obviously. And it's very hard for me to see her hurt and cry. It was just like, because obviously right now we kind of had to rebuild trust. And so it's just like, I wanted to say, like, I believe you can do it. But I fully, honestly couldn't say that with truth. And that was even just hard to even go through. Because, like, it got to that point. And there were certain areas where she had kind of said the same thing with me, too. Where I just knew I had to be consistently more honest and more vulnerable. The things that actually bothered me. Because me staying silent about them doesn't help anybody. And my gosh. And here's the flip side. Here's the thing that's actually been going great. We both been changing. Going more frequently to premarital counseling, surrounding ourselves with married couples who've been through tougher things that we've been through, like cheating, all these different stuff, and actually made it through it. And while us, it's just more like certain boundaries were broken and not discussed, but it's still pretty important for us. And being able to learn from them and surround ourselves with better people than us, and I can honestly say, our relationship is so much more stronger than it ever was before. 100%. And it's honestly so beautiful. It really is. And I'm so glad. I really am so glad that we've gotten to this point where I'm getting a lot more confident in just our relationship, because I've been a lot more open. She's been a lot more open. We're seeing the things, because obviously we're preparing for marriage. And so obviously we're not married yet. But the thing is, I want to start behaving more like the spouse that she deserves, and vice versa when it comes to boundaries with family, because they can tend to step in a lot and all of this different jazz. And I want to become that man that she deserves to be with. And I pray that she becomes the woman that, I deserve to be with too, because I want to be the very best that I can be for her. And this is kind of like these videos, anyways, just more of a commitment with me and God, just kind of like saying the lessons I've learned, the things that I've been through, as kind of like a video journal, I guess you could say, but also just making that consistent effort to record something, to say something, my creativeness or whatever the case is or whatever. Anyways. But yeah, it's honestly a lot better now. 100%. And I cannot wait to see where our relationship is actually going, because we've discussed a lot of different things of just like, why are certain boundaries important to us? Is it just because our parents made that kind of a boundary for us, or is it because we actually agree with this, right? And kind of like coming to our own frame of thinking rather than just following our parents' thoughts. And it's been a lot of work. It's been a lot of conversations, needed conversations, sometimes uncomfortable conversations. But in all honesty, this is what I'm learning to how to actually strengthen a relationship. Because like this is, if a relationship is something that you treasure, then you would put the work in to make sure that this thing is well taken care of. And that's what we're doing. And I almost messed it all up by not being clear and not being open with what I was feeling. And it's not the fact of like, oh, I didn't love her anymore. No, it was just like things that were bothering me with certain boundaries when it comes to other people and all that jazz. Like, it was just bothering me. And I didn't make an effort to actually say it. And in all honesty, like, that's probably why a lot of people get divorced in the first place. Because they hop into a marriage thinking that a marriage will fix everything. But no, it just magnifies everything, because I don't live with my fiance. Whoa. If I was to live with my wife, I'd be seeing her every waking moment. And then the thing that bothers me kind of just like is shown to me in the face every single time I see her, which is every day. And then it just becomes big of an issue. And if you can't even talk about it before, if you can't even establish this rhythm of actually being open with each other and actually understanding each other's point of views, listening and all that jazz, then obviously no relationship is going to work like that. And marriage ain't going to fix anything. It's more of the solidifying of just like, hey, like we've put in the work, and I'm confident that like this relationship will be the very best that it can be. And I cannot wait to do it. And I'm honestly eager to marry her. And while it is pushed back and whatnot, I'm not the guy to be like, oh, you know, I'm kind of weary about marriage. No, bro. I'm one of those dudes who obviously wants to be married. I definitely do. And it's not because of the sex. That's part of it, but not all of it. And I'd be lying to you if that was a part of it. But I obviously do want to get married. Really, really, really. But also at the same time, I need to keep my word. Because this is also setting the foundation to everything that we're building in the future. For our future family, for our future lives, and all of that. And I hope this comes as a lesson for you, and also an interesting story, right? Of the things that I've been through, and also something to take in for whether you are in a relationship or whether you're not in a relationship, whatever the case is. But I hope you found that interesting, because it was definitely interesting for me. A lot. Very. And painful. But I digress. I love you guys, and have a good one.